Thank you, choir. That was really good. Let's just bow our heads. And now may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O Lord, my rock and my salvation. Amen. I would like to put on my sermon. Sometimes your sermon is on paper and sometimes it's around your shoulders. So today I would like to put on this thing and I would like to keep you wondering what it is until we get there. Is that okay? Right, so this is how we do that. On a nice warm day, we wear lots of things. So I would like to talk to you this afternoon about the gospel reading that we had in Matthew. In Matthew, Jesus talks about, in Matthew 6, he talks about prayer. Now, there's a wonderful saying, rabbinic saying, that says, "He who prays within his house surrounds it with a wall that is stronger than iron." What is prayer? When I was in seminary, we had a subject that was called Studies in Prayer. Throughout my ministry of nearly 30 years, I've listened to numerous prayer seminars. I read dozens of books about prayer. I preached about prayer more than I can remember. I listened to prayers more than I can recount. I prayed every day of my life. And yet, after all of this, I came to this conclusion. I have no idea what prayer is. And now you might say, wow, what have you done all this time? The more I read about prayer, the more I think about prayer, the more I listen to prayers, the more I realize that prayer is a mystery. It's like love. You cannot teach someone to love. You can talk about love. You can write books about love, how you experience love, but a person has to experience love himself or herself. Prayer is like ice cream. You see, when we went to Jeju, during the retreat, we had a wonderful time and lots of ice cream. You see, I'm a self-confessed ice creamaholic. I love ice cream. But I can introduce all the flavors of ice cream. And I can tell you and I can sing the praises of good ice cream. But you have to taste it. If you don't taste it, you don't know. And prayer is like that. You see, prayer has to be experienced. But not only once, prayer is a discovery. And while you're discovering it, you're experiencing it. And it's all in the ongoing sense. It's in the continuous tense all the time. There's no time that you can come to a place where you say, now I've got it. That's why I'm saying after all these years, I still have no idea. I've scratched the surface. That's all I know. There's so much more. You see, when the disciples in a similar text in Luke 11 came to Jesus and asked him, teach us to pray, they actually wanted a recipe. And so when we talk about prayer, mostly we talk about recipes. Well, I do like to try out new recipes in my house. So I'm not a good cook, but I'm trying. So whenever I came along some good recipe that I would like to try, I do something vicious. I invite victims. They think they are guests, but they're not, because I'm trying a recipe on them. And usually my Korean victims or guests or friends, they're very polite. And after they absorb what I try to give them, they ate it, they are very polite and they tell me, well, this is good. And then I can see on their body language, wow, they will never eat it again. Some of my other friends are not so polite. But we all try recipes. And so we try these recipes of prayer. And we say, if you pray A, B, C, or do this and this and this, then God will hear your prayer. And then there's another one trying recipe B. If you shout loud enough, God will hear your prayer. There's another one that's saying, no, if you pray this way, God, you can turn God's arm and you can swift God's arm into hearing you. And I think God is sometimes like my Korean guests. He politely answers the prayer and honors our recipe. But prayer is not a recipe. Prayer is a door. Prayer is like a door opening to a mystery. In Matthew 6, we get a situation where Jesus talks about prayer. Actually, I think it was also prompted, as in Luke 16, by disciples observing Jesus' prayer life and asking, now, how do you do that? And I think they were asking for a recipe. But Jesus came and he opens a door to mystery. When he teaches them about prayer, he didn't teach them a recipe, now you do this, and then you do that, and then you do that. No, he taught them a prayer. And then he touches on aspects of prayer. Opening that door a little bit, going into this adventure of prayer with them, just giving them guidelines. He knew prayer is to be discovered. Now, if I want to read the Bible, and if I want to understand the concept of prayer in Matthew 6, I also need to know one thing, and that is that Jesus was not a Christian. He was a Jew. Jesus spoke as a Jew to Jews in a Jewish world, with people with a Jewish understanding of everything. The Jewish religion was not a religion like we sometimes have, a church religion separate from our daily lives. No, it was intertwined. It was part of the morning breath. It was part of getting up, going to sleep. It was part of everything they did. So when we read this part in Matthew 6, we should not put up our glasses of the 20th or 21st century. Then we won't understand it. We have to try and go back and see ourselves and try to listen as best we can to the way that Jesus and his people understood it those times. When Jesus spoke about going into the closet, going to a private place, with our Western and Eastern mind and our understanding of today, we think that the private place, if Jesus says, go into your private room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in the secret. All that we see is maybe a prayer room where we go in, we shut the door, and we are alone there in our house or wherever we are. That's not what the Jews heard. What they heard was so bound to their religion, and they understood it immediately. You see, to understand the concept, we need to understand the concept of prayer in Jesus' time. When they heard it, they didn't see a room of a building. They saw this. And this is a talit. It is the talit or prayer shawl. Now this is very interesting. When you read the New Testament, you cannot read it without the Old Testament. If you want to understand this, you cannot understand it without the Old Testament. A former professor of mine used to say to us that if you want to understand the Bible, you have to understand the Old Testament is actually just the picture book. The New Testament is the subtitles. So this is the way, if we look at the Bible, we have to look at both testaments. When you look at our reading, our Old Testament reading, it talks about the talit. And the New Testament, when Jesus spoke about this, go into your closet, he spoke about, they understood it as the talit. Now let's quickly look at the talit. What is a talit? Just want to get it off here and I can show you. A talit is the prayer, it became the prayer shawl, but up to the time of Jesus, it was actually worn by male Jews. Now when you look at this, it is seamless. We get the talit, the concept of the talit, in the outerwear of the Jewish males up to that time. So they had an undergarment and the outer garment. This was the outer garment. When we look at the cross, there were some of the soldiers and they were dividing the cloth of Jesus, the clothes of Jesus, his outer garment that was without seam. That was a talit that he had on. So on the four corners of the talit, we got tzitzi, tassels. The tassels were there to remind the Jews of the Bible, the Torah. When you add up, they had lots of value to the numeric system. If you add it up, it comes to 613. Now, each tassel, there were 4 tassels, had 5 knots and 8 strings. 613 are the laws or the instructions of the Torah. So it reminded them of that. Now, in the time of Jesus, when the Jewish males go to prayer, even today, they would do this. They would have this around their shoulders. And then, if they talk about prayer, going into your closet, this is what the Jewish male does. And I want to illustrate this to you. When they go praying, they do this. They do that, and they do that. Can you see? In the closet. In the closet. They do this action. And this action is very important because it signifies wings. When you look at the tabernacle, in the Old Testament, the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant, over the Ark of the Covenant, there were 2 seraphs, angels, and they were in this position, like that. So when the Jewish male heard, go into your closet, he heard this was imprinted in the very fiber of his religion. Going to your closet, the prayer closet, The place of prayer is like going into the Holy of Holies. It is under God's presence. Can you see that? Into God's very Holy of Holy presence. That's what Jesus says. Don't be like the Pharisees. He has this huge contrast. Don't be like the Pharisees, because the Pharisees, they go to the corners of the street and they pray. Now, they had that in the time of Jesus, going to the corners. Even today, if you go to Jerusalem, you see the Orthodox Pharisees, and they would stand at the corners and they would pray also with this. In this picture, you can see a Jewish prayer meeting. And Jesus said, this is the way to do that. The closet. But the Pharisees, they went to the corner of streets and they would do that. They would do this movement all the time and say their prayers for everybody to see. Jesus said, no, not that, but this. What does it mean to them? What is the significance of this prayer? As I said, it is all about going into God's presence, like that of the Ark of the Covenant. The other thing that we need to know about this is this part goes over the head, and this is a blessing. It's a blessing in Hebrew that is said to God for thanking Him for prayer, for the talit. When I go into the prayer closet, it's not a place of judgment. When I go to prayer, it's not a place of judgment. When I go through that open door that Jesus opened for us, it's a place of covenant. It's a place of blessing. It's a place where I can find God's own presence in my presence. But furthermore, when the Jews heard this, they heard the Old Testament, the psalm that says, I'm under His wings. Under His wings, there's protection for me. Under His wings. The whole concept of wings over me. You see, it's a safe place. A place of protection. What they also heard was the Song of Solomon's, His banner over me is love. The place of prayer is a place where God's banner over me is love. What a place. What an invitation. Come to the closet. Come to my private place. Go there where you are. Yes, it is an alone place. It's a place where the Jews were shutting themselves out of this world, but still in this world. It was said, I think, of the wife of Wesley, or his mother, actually his mother, who had many kids. They were, I don't know how many kids there were, but many. And when she wanted to pray, she just did this with the apron, and she prayed. So God invites us, come to the closet. It's a place of being alone, but not lonely. It's not a lonely place. God is there. But in the last instance, what did they hear? You see, in that closet, although they locked off and out of this world, shut off, it was a place where earth meets heaven. The earth, heaven touches the earth. Why is that? You see, this they could do anywhere. Anywhere they could just put this talit over their head, and they would be in that close place of contact with God while their feet were still on the soil of this earth. And then Jesus said, your Father who sees you in the secret will reward you in the open. You go into the closet and you pray to your Father that is in heaven. Heaven touches the earth. Brothers and sisters, this afternoon, Jesus invites us to the closet. And he says, come here. Touch the heaven, where heaven touches the soil. Your prayer closet can be anywhere. You don't have to have a prayer tallis. You don't have to do the Jewish thing. This is all about the understanding of something that prayer is. May we be people of the closet. May we be people who pray. Pray more than we talk. May we be people who know the secrets of the closet. Amen.